Hey guys, what's up? This is Dragon, and today we'll be going over the Season 5 jungle items and which items you should be picking for a certain champion. You'll be seeing champions ranging from Amumu to Diana to Zed to even Lucian. And this video is supposed to guide you when the Season 5 changes do come out to show you what item sets you should choose with each champion. So before we begin, we'll be explaining what the new jungle items are, and then we'll be associating the item sets with the champions. So the first item we're going to be discussing is the Ranger's Trailblazer. So what it does basically is that it stuns monsters and the monsters around it, and it also damages the enemies around the person you smited for half the damage. It also reduces cooldown by 15 seconds, while also giving you 15% of your missing health and mana. Now this item is probably the best out of the other three since it just gives you so much value of what it's worth. But this item is generally going to be used for people like tanks who have trouble with clearing, or people who need durability against the camps since it does give some health back while stunning the enemy. Now I'd pick this for any jungler who wants to play standard since it's so good, and if you don't have any other special intentions of doing anything with smite, then you're going to probably want to pick this item. Next item we're going to be discussing is the Poachers Knife. Basically this item gives you a 30-second smite, plus 20 bonus gold, and 175% movement speed over 2 seconds, but only if you use it in an enemy's jungle and last hit it. Now as you can see, this item is oriented towards people who want to counter jungle. The movement speed is really good for getting out of sticky situations, and having a 30-second smite will let you do the camps faster. So if you want to counter jungle, get this item. The next item is going to be a Skirmisher Saber. Basically, you have vision of the enemy who you smited, you're going to have bonus true damage when you auto attack them, and they deal 20% less damage to you. So this item is more oriented to killing the enemy jungler instead of counter jungling. And of course, it's really good for people who auto attack a lot. And apparently the true damage is really good for when you use it on someone. But obviously only some champions can benefit from it. People like Kha'Zix who are AD casters can't really do it, although people like Warwick and Lucian can make use of it a lot. And also if you do plan on split pushing with a jungle champion, then this item is for you. The next item we'll be going over is the Stalker's Blade. This does some true damage to the enemy, and it also reduces their movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds. So this item is going to be used for people who can't really gank that well. I'd say this is good for people who don't have CC like a Cully or Lucian jungle, but for people who already can gank efficiently like Lee Sin or Jarvan, I would say it's not the best thing for them as they already provide a lot of CC. So basically only get this if you don't have any CC as a jungler. And next up we'll be going over are the enchantments. So the first one we'll be doing is the Juggernaut enchantment. So this one you're gonna buy for tanks as it does give health, cooldown reduction, and tenacity just like the old ancient golem. The next one is going to be the Warrior enchantment, which does give 45 attack damage, 10% cooldown reduction, and 10 armor penetration, and so you'll probably be buying this on people who are AD champions. The next one is going to be the Magus Enchantment, which does give 80 ability power and 20% cooldown reduction, so this is a definite improvement from the Spectral Ray. And the last enchantment is going to be the Devour Enchantment, which does give 50% attack speed and 40 magic damage on hit. And the magic damage does increase if you kill a large monster, then you get +1 to the magic damage. If it's a champion kill or assist, then it's +2. So expect to see this item on a lot of auto attack champions, and now we'll be doing item builds on certain champions if I were to pick them. Alright, so the first person I'm going to do is Aatrox, and for Aatrox I'd probably either go Juggernaut or Devourer. Depending on the game, if I feel like I'm ahead, I'll probably go Devourer. If I'm behind, I'll probably go Juggernaut. And the item I'd probably go is Trailblazer. If I'm feeling feisty, then it's going to be Skirmisher Saber. But most likely, Trailblazer. Next up is Amumu, and there's two choices you could go. It's either Magus or Juggernaut, but I'd probably prefer Juggernaut 70% of the time, and 30% of the time would be Magus. And the item, again, I'd probably go is Trailblazer. Next up is Diana, and the enchantment I would go is Magus since she scales with AP. And again, the item is going to be Trailblazer. Next up is Mundo, and the enchantment is going to be Juggernaut, while the item is going to be Trailblazer. Next up is going to be Elise, and this is going to be interesting. She's going to go into Juggernaut into Trailblazer. The reason you go Juggernaut instead of Magus is because Juggernaut gives you the hit point to be tanky, while Magus gives you AP, but everyone knows Elise's AP ratios kind of suck. The only reason people were going Spectral Wraith was because Ancient Golem got changed a bit and she didn't benefit a lot from it. It actually had a negative impact from her, so it kind of forced her to go into the Spectral Wraith. But now they kind of changed the jungle, and Juggernaut is probably the best for her. Next one is going to be Evelyn, and I'm thinking the Warrior Enchantment along with Trailblazer or even Skirmisher Saber or Stalker's Blade. Now I can see Skirmisher Saber being good for ganking and dealing the enemy jungler, since you do have that stealth for surprising the enemy when going into his own jungle. And then Stalker's Blade is probably the most unlikely, since her ganks are pretty good even if she doesn't have any CC. But I mean, hey, if you ever need a mini ultimate, go for it. Next up is Fiddlesticks. Now, you'd probably go Magus since it does give ability power, and the enchantment you'd probably go is Trailblazer. Next up is the Pony, and you'd probably go the Warrior Enchantment since it does give armor penetration and attack damage. I'd probably never go Juggernaut since Hecarim does benefit off AD and armor penetration really greatly. And then for the item, I'd probably go Trailblazer. Next up is Jarvan, and the enchantment I would probably go is Warrior. Odd time Juggernaut, but most of the times I'd probably still go Warrior. And for the item, I'd probably go Trailblazer or Skirmisher Saber. It'll be 50-50 whichever I choose. Probably Skirmisher Saber though, since you have your ultimate to lock someone down and you can start wailing on that person with true damage and your auto attacks. I think Jarvan will benefit greatly from Skirmisher Saber though, if the true damage is really good. Next up is Karthus, and he's probably going to go Trailblazer and Magus. Next up is K6, and he's probably going to go the Warrior Enchantment, and he'll most likely go Trailblazer since he doesn't auto attack as much as other people, so he won't go Skirmisher's Blade. And next up is Kale, and for Kale, since their AP ratios do suck right now, I'd probably go Devour, and then it would be either Trailblazer or Skirmisher Saber. Next up is Lee Sin, and you'll probably always want to go Warrior, and then probably Trailblazer. And next up is Lucian, and generally for any AD carry junglers, I'd probably still go Warrior, and then I would probably go Stalker's Blade since it is useful for ganking your enemies, and also it's a really good peeling tool since you do have a 2-second 50% slow. Next up is Malachi, and I'd probably go Juggernaut into Trailblazer. And next up for Yi, I'd probably go Devourer into Trailblazer or Skirmisher Saber, since Yi is a farm jungle and he wants to farm as much as he can. But if you are going to opt in into dueling and split pushing, then Skirmisher Saber is also good. But generally, I'd probably go Trailblazer. For Nocturne, it's going to be the same thing. He's an auto attack jungler and he can split push if he wants to, so you can go Trailblazer or Skirmisher Saber. Next up is Nunu, and we'd probably go Juggernaut on him. And we'll probably go Poachers Knife since we'll be doing a lot of counter jungling. Next up is going to be Olaf. Personally, I'd probably go Juggernaut since I'm just going to rely on his base damage, but you can go Warrior if you just want to do more damage. As for item, I'd probably just go Trailblazer. Next up is Nautilus, and same thing goes for him with other tanks, just probably build Juggernaut and a Trailblazer. And next up is Pantheon. You'd probably want to build Warrior on him and then probably go into a Trailblazer because his clears kind of suck. Next up is going to be Rammus, and it's probably going to be Juggernaut and Trailblazer. Next up is Rengar. If you are going for the one-shot Rengar, then you'll probably go the Warrior Enchantment, but most likely you'll probably be going Devour since most people went Madreds and Feral Flare. And for the item, you're probably going to buy Trailblazer or the Skirmisher Saber. As for sure with Rengar, I could see you want to be dueling in the enemy's jungle since you have the advantage with the bushes. Next up is Riven, and I'd probably go the Warrior Enchantment and probably into Trailblazer. As for Sejuani, I don't know, you could go into Juggernaut, or if you're going AP Sejuani, then you can go Magus. And then again, you'd probably go Trailblazer. As for Shako, I would probably go into Warrior, since I do feel like, he is an auto attacker in a sense, but I've seen the Challenger Shako and he goes Outer Lizard, so I feel like this would be the best option. And then for the item, I'd probably go Trailblazer or Skirmisher Saber, but most likely Trailblazer. Next up is Shenton, so if you do want to go the Feral Flare route, you could go Devour, or if you want to be a tank, then you can go Juggernaut. Now personally, I would probably go Devourer as I do want to do damage, but you can go Juggernaut if you want to feel tanky. As for the item, I'd probably still go Trailblazer. Skirmisher Saber is good for split pushing, but since you're jungle Shen, you probably won't be stronger than the other enemy. Next up is Panzer Dragon, and definitely you want to go Devourer since your Q can proc the magic damage twice. And then you'll probably want to take the Poacher's Knife since Shyvana is a pretty good counter jungler with the movement speed from her W. Next up is Trundle. He can go either the warrior or juggernaut, depending on how you want to play. I'd personally want to go the warrior, but if I'm behind, I'd probably go juggernaut. As for the item, I'd probably build Trailblazer. Next up is Tryndamere, and I think I'm gonna have to go with warrior on this one, since you know you can crit, so the AD on him is valuable. And as for the item, I'd probably build Trailblazer. I mean, you could go Skirmisher Saber, but you already have enough damage with your crits and autos. Next up is Twitch, and I'd probably go into Warrior since he is an AD carry. As for items, I probably wouldn't go Stalker's Blade this time. Instead, I might even go Skirmisher's Blade just for the extra true damage, or maybe Trailblazer. Next up is Uterus, and you'd probably go Devour while going into Poachers Knife or Trailblazer. You are a farm jungler, and your goal should be to farm the map and of course counter jungle. Next up is V, and you are going to go into Warrior, into Trailblazer. Next up is the Thunder Bear, and personally, I would actually go Juggernaut, since your W scales off hit point. As for items, you'll probably be going into Big Surprise, Trailblazer. Now next up is Warwick, and please tell me you will be going Devour because your ultimate procs on hit effects, which means 40 damage x5 plus the Devour stacks, plus your Wits End if you ever get that. And also, please get Skirmisher Saber. This just sounds so OP. Like there is so much on hit effects, you just gotta go both of them. I mean, if you want to go Trailblazer and get those AoE clears, that's fine, but personally I'd probably go Skirmisher Saber every time. Next up is Denzel, and I do feel like he's an auto attacker more than an AD caster, so I will go with Devour. And as for items, I'd probably pick the Trailblazer, or if I'm going to duel a lot, then it's going to be the Skirmisher Saber. So next one is Zack. This one's quite obvious. It's going to be the Juggernaut since you want health. As for item, it's probably going to be Trailblazer. Last up is Zed, and he's going to get the Warrior Enchantment along with, well, I think this is a big surprise to you guys, but Trailblazer. The reason I wouldn't go Skirmisher Saber is because his ultimate doesn't proc off true damage. It only procs on magic and physical damage, so if he ever did some kind of true damage, then well, it wouldn't apply to the death mark pop. So that is the end of this video. We've gone through most of the jungle champions. If I missed some, feel free to say something in the comments and I'll reply to it, like what you should get. As for the next video, I'll be showing efficient jungle routes, which will include blue to red route, red to blue route, and red to invading route, I guess. And so it'll be a shorter video than this video for sure. But if you do want to see that video when it's released, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I am Pantheon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully we'll see you next time.